Hi VC, it's Rob here with another video, and this is going to be Vinyl Tag 2022 Stunty version. So Stunt Rock Confusion, Stunty has come up with 20 odd questions for the vinyl tag. So I thought I'd jump in. I really like Stunty's questions. I know I've done a vinyl tag as well, and I want to thank everyone who's jumped in on that. But there is no official vinyl tag. It doesn't work like that. I just want to maybe clear up a few things before I start. So I know Norman Maslow, I don't know if you're aware of Maz's channel, maybe go and subscribe to him. Made a very amusing video where he was talking about a war in the VC. Certainly not a war in the VC. Me and Stunty get on really well, and I think what happened was I'll give you a little bit of a timeline on why there is two vinyl tags. So on New Year's Day, like everyone, I was sort of waiting for the vinyl tag to drop, and it didn't drop. And I was on Rachel's live stream, and people were just saying, you know, who's going to do the vinyl tag, and I just thought, I'll do it. So I went off, and I actually contacted Richard McCook, and a few words with Richard, and he said, you know, I said, I'm thinking of doing it, and he said, well, if you do the questions, I'll do a video. So, but in the meantime, I think Stunty was on the live stream, and he said that he was going to do the questions. So I did my video and dropped it, and what I discovered was within a couple of minutes, there was a hell of a lot of views on that video, and I think a lot of people were just waiting for someone to do a vinyl tag. So that's what happened. I know my questions are pretty basic, really, and Stunty's questions are probably a bit more thought out, and that's why I want to do them, because there's some great questions. So if you've done my tag, then, you know, I do encourage you to go over and check out Stunty's video and answer the questions, because it didn't take me long to sort of get something together. So let's get cracking. Wasted 2.5 minutes. So I've got my prompts there, and hopefully it'll be enough to get me through the video. So the first question was the first album that you bought in 2021. I do have a little bit of a problem because I don't have Discogs, so obviously I don't really register what I'm buying and when I'm buying. So I just looked online and saw what my first purchase online was. And my first purchase online was Elbow. And this album from 2011, Build a Rocket Ship. So I'm a big fan of Elbow. This is probably third or fourth in my favourites. I know the band that's not that well known in America, but if you're not aware of Elbow, I really recommend you check them out, from sort of just outside Manchester. And yeah, go and check Elbow out. So that was sort of my first purchase. The last record that I bought in 2021, so on New Year's Eve I actually went and bought a load of records. So and I've got a few from that trip that I'm going to show in this video. So I've picked Devo up. So Freedom of Choice from 1980. So I'm somebody who, apologise if there's a bit of noise, my cats are fighting. So I'm a big fan of the song Whip It, and Whip It's on this album. I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with Devo. Sort of their early stuff I do like. Some of the later stuff isn't really for me, but I'm persevering with them, and I picked up this really nice copy of this Devo album from 1980, an adventure on a pre-order. So I'm going to show this album from James. So it's called Living in Extraordinary Times. It came out in 2018. So it's a double album. So the adventure with this, I suppose, is I was just on Amazon checking prices, etc. And this album actually came up for under £6, which is, you know, probably £20 cheaper than it usually is. So I couldn't believe my luck and ordered it, and it came. It's a really good album. So yeah, James, another Manchester band, and it only cost me £6. So that was a really nice pickup. A cheapo, so sort of a cheap record that you picked up in 2021. So I went in one of my local sort of charity emporiums, really. It's a massive place, and they're selling records for 10p. So I bought 80 records. So it cost me £8 for 80 records. So, and there's a real mixed bag in amongst them. So they were 10p a record. So I'm going to show sounds like a good album to us. So some of the artists on here include Santana, The Vibrators, Ram Jam, Lone Star, Aerosmith, Cheap Trick and Sparks. So 10p, certainly very good purchase. And the most expensive, so I'm not somebody who spends a huge amount on individual albums, but I do spend a lot of money over the year. But I paid £37 for Suffering and Shimmerling, Shimmerling is it? From Fela Kuti. So this is a French import. So Fela Kuti albums are pretty scarce, and they do tend to be quite expensive. So I went in one of my local record shops in Stockport, just outside Manchester, and picked this album up for £37. The next question is, show a record by a new band from 2021. So one of the records I showed on my favourite albums from 2021 was from this band from London, Black Country New Road, for the first time. So this is this came out in January. Quite a lot of hype about this album. Only 6 tracks on it, but it takes you on a bit of a journey. Very sort of unusual vocal by Isaac Wood. Bit experimental, goes a little bit jazzy at times, and I really recommend giving this one a listen. So yeah, Black Country New Road, and for the first time. Show a record out of your comfort zone. So amongst these records that were 10p each, there was a lot of classical music. So I've been listening to quite a lot of classical music over the last month or so. So there was about 30 classical records that I picked up, and they're all 10p each. So things like Rossini and Brahms. So I have actually been really enjoying these. Tchaikovsky as well. The Nutcracker Suite. A little bit of Beethoven. So I'm someone who kind of has left classical music alone, a bit of Grieg, but I found that I really enjoyed it, and for 10p each, then really nice to own. A Pride find. So I think my best find of the year was Led Zeppelin 2. It cost me £2 on a Plum Atlantic, but I don't know where I've put it. So I thought I'd show this tricky album that was in a box of records at a car boot sale from 1995. I always get is it Matsin Quay? So tricky, of course, formerly with Massive Attack. And this is a really good album from 1995. Show a new style or genre that you're getting into in 2021. So this gives me an opportunity to talk about Stunty. So I do watch quite a few of Stunty's live streams, and he always shows plays really interesting music, stuff you've never heard of, totally out of your comfort zone. And he also did a video about this group, Seafeel. So Seafeel were formed in the early 90s, and it's sort of a little bit techno, electronic, a bit dubby, very interesting, very sort of not a new genre for me, but sort of a genre that I've not really explored that much. And I picked up this from Amazon and really enjoyed it. So anyone who wants to sort of discover new music, I really recommend you checking out Stunt Rock Confusion's channel. So yeah, Seafeel. Favourite sort of cover art that you picked up in 2021. So I'm going to show Pylon and this album Chomp. So Pylon, these are a group that I've only really got into this year, from Athens, Georgia, and they're a band from sort of the early 80s, quite sort of remind me of the Gang of Four, and the Gang of Four, one of my favourite groups from the early 80s, and discovering Pylon has been a real treat. And they only made a couple of albums and then they got back together in the late 80s, but this album's a cracker. Chomp by Pylon. A band from your youth that you finally got a record by. So I'm going to show Generation X and this self-titled album from, I think it's from 78, so it's got Ready Steady Go on it. That's the only sort of hit single on here. But Generation X were sort of a band that at the time, in the sort of late 70s, I always thought Billy Idol was a bit of a gimmick, but I do quite enjoy Generation X now. So I was pretty pleased to pick up this Generation X album. An anticipated release in 2022. So there's a band that I really like called Palace. So far they've released 2 albums. And they've got a new album coming out called Shoals in January. So, and they're also touring at the beginning of this year. So I've seen them before. Sort of melodic indie music, probably sound pretty uninspiring, but I do really like Palace. A record that I've not given enough love to. So, you know, one of the problems when you've got a big record collection is records that you love, you might not spin them for a year. And that's the case with the Parcels. So the Parcels debut album from 2018. It was on a trifold. So the Parcels are an Australian band who are based in Berlin, sort of 70s disco influenced, produced by Daft Punk, and they're one of my favourite current bands. They've just released a new album, Night and Day, that I recommend you checking out. But the debut, it's an album that I need to spin pretty soon. So yeah, the Parcels. A record that you sort of held on to, that was part of the family. So my dad, who's sadly no longer with us, and my mum died about 5 years ago now. So when I was looking through the records and we were clearing stuff out, there was a few records that I kept, and he was a big fan of Neil Sedaka. So, and I've got a soft spot for Neil Sedaka, Solitaire. So Neil Sedaka, this album was actually produced in Stockport with help from 10cc. And when I hear Neil Sedaka, especially the song Laughter in the Rain, it just reminds me of my dad. So I have got a soft spot for the great Neil Sedaka. Show a turning point record. So a record that might make you sort of explore new genres, if you like, in 2022. So this is a record that I just picked up a couple of days ago. So it's called Together, and it's a compilation album, and it only cost me £1, and it's got 16 tracks on it. So I played it, and it's kind of folk rock, if you like. And nearly every song on this album, I really enjoyed it. And the artists like Tom Rush, also Soft Machine are on here, who are a band that I've been checking out as well. And the artists on here, Santana's on here, of course, that I know, but bands like Trees, there's Johnny Winter as well, Mick Softly. This was really interesting listening to this album, and a lot of the artists on here, I'm sure the albums I could pick up relatively cheap. So yeah, this is an excellent comp. It's like a CBS compilation, and it's got sort of the original inner with it as well. But yeah, I think I might be exploring a little bit of sort of early 70s sort of folk rock in 2022. Show a non-record item. So recently I picked up a cassette for £1 of REM and Automatic for the People. I do have a number of cassettes. I do like picking them up when I see them cheap, and this is of course a classic album, REM and Automatic for the People. A band that bypassed you until recently. So a band that I've really been getting into recently are the Cassettes Angels. So I've picked up the first 4 albums by the Cassettes Angels. This album's called Waiting for a Miracle, and this only cost me a couple of quid. I picked it up just before Christmas. The Cassettes Angels are from Sheffield, and they were around at the beginning of the 80s, and I've enjoyed all their albums, and they're a band that I rarely see anyone show in the VC. I think maybe the problem was sort of at the beginning of the 80s there was a lot of sort of synth pop that was popular, and maybe commercially the Cassettes Angels were a little bit out of step. But I do recommend, if you see any Cassettes Angels albums, to pick them up. So yeah, the Cassettes Angels sort of bypassed me in the 80s. A record that took the longest to find. So I'm not someone who sort of has a wants list. I tend to just go in record shops, and if something appeals to me, I just grab it. But a record that I certainly wanted, and when I saw it at a record fair, I picked it up, was Wake Up the Nation by Paul Weller. I think this album's from, I can't remember the year, 2010 maybe. This is a remix version. I'm a Paul Weller fan, especially his early albums. I think he's certainly dropped off recently, but I was pleased to pick this up. Paid 35 quid for it, but yeah, when I saw it, certainly one that I wanted. Show some VCLT. So one of my favourite channels in the VC is Vinyl Scavenger, so I recommend anyone going checking out the Vinyl Scavenger. That's Martin down in, I think he's in Aylesbury, near Oxford. So he sent me a copy of the Inspiral Carpets. Always got to show an Inspiral Carpets record, it's in the contract. And this album, Revenge of the Goldfish, from 91. So this is an album, is it 91 or it might be 92 actually? Yeah, 92. So this is an album that I've been after for, you know, since dinosaurs ruled the earth. But I think it's going to get reissued pretty soon. And this is full of really good songs like Dragging Me Down and Two Worlds Collide, Generations and Bitches Brew. So yeah, a really generous piece of VCLT from Martin Parrott. Show a record you'd like to send us VCLT. Now, this is a record that I know this particular person would really like, but I'm not going to send this as VCLT because it took me about 30 years to find it, and I found it for £1 a couple of days ago, well, a week ago. So I found this record by the Big Sound Authority, self-titled album. I'm sure another really good channel on the VC is Richard McCook. and I know that he would really enjoy this album. So it's an album I've been looking for a while, but I never see it. Looking through a box of old records, and it was there for £1, so, and it was in a record shop. So the Big Sound Authority were sort of around in the sort of 83, 84 period. They went on the Respond tour with Paul Weller. They didn't sign for Respond, though. They signed for MCA Records. And this is sort of white, sort of blue-eyed soul music, if you like, from the mid-80s. But it's an excellent album, and if I see another copy of it, I'll be sending it over to my friend in Northern Ireland, Richard McCook. So if you ever see that, Richard, I really recommend you picking it up. So I think there was a question that I was struggling with, and that was a record that I bought not due to the main artist, so I'm going to skip that one. And show a record that nobody else seems to have noticed that you really enjoy. So I'm going to show Nicholas Godine, this album, Concrete and Glass. So this album came out a couple of years ago. So Nicholas Godine is the guy behind, he's one of Air, the band who, of course, popular with the album Moon Safari, but Air have produced a number of great albums, and this solo album certainly has a feel of Moon Safari. So yeah, it's an album that doesn't seem to get much love, but I do love it. It's Nicholas Godine and Concrete and Glass. So Stunty had an extra question about songs that make you want to dance, and The Basement Jacks and Where's Your Head At. I love that jacket. Real good dance track from probably about 15 years ago now. So yeah, makes me want to dance. The Basement Jacks and Where's Your Head At. So I've answered Stunty's questions. As I said, I really recommend anyone to go over to Stunty's channel and check out his questions. Like I said before, there's no official vinyl tag. Just have fun with it and show your records. That's it from me. If you've got any comments about what I show, I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.